Hello, welcome to the Jenkins Documentation Office Hours. Today is June 12th, and today we have myself, Kevin Martins, Bruno Verashton, Chris Stern, Meg McRoberts. I'm Birajit Saikia. Rajiv's not here just yet, but we'll leave him on the agenda if he does come and join us. If not, I'll just update it later. But welcome. Thanks for joining. Today's agenda, we have some contributor spotlight updates, the ongoing Java 25 docs, 2025 Jenkins Community Awards, another reminder about the Android and Jenkins blog post, some updates for Google Summer of Code 2025. Chris has some additional updates and details about the Chinese documentation site process and plans for that. Good first issues on Jenkins.io, which Meg raised last session. Some updates on the LTS and weekly releases, both past and upcoming. The recent work done for Jenkins.io and documentation. Updates on Google Season of Docs, what we've been talking about. The header redesign as part of the July LTS and that discussion that started. Some notes on the wiki migration redirects that I've been working on. And then I did want to discuss the issue that BRG created recently about potentially removing the Java 11 upgrade instructions. And then, if provided we have time, plug in developer docs and Blue Ocean deprecation. Anything else anyone wants to make sure gets added there, or anything we didn't cover that needs to be on there for this week?
Actually want to bring up maybe towards the end. I'm not sure I'll still be there because I need to leave at half past. But we should for the reason PR version made for Ed and LinkedIn. We should also add to it some similar features for Mastodon and also for Blue Sky.
Oh, okay. Got yeah, I did have that. So, I did have that listed here in the recent work because BRG added the LinkedIn option. So we can definitely talk about that at that point, Chris.
Yeah, because I said I said last time 2 weeks ago during the advocacy and outreach meeting I was going to do it, but it wasn't discussed like properly yet. So maybe we can do it here.
Okay, yeah, no problem. And now that we're officially on there as far as the project goes, that makes sense to also provide those options. Um, whether or not, that is as widespread use is not the issue or the question at hand, but just whether it's available. So yeah, I think we'll talk about that too. Cool. Okay. So going back to the top, let's get started here. So for the contributor spotlight, we just published the spotlight for Elon Rabinovich. For anyone unaware, Elon's one of the founders and chair people of Scale, the Southern California Linux Expo. Scale's been providing a booth and space for Jenkins over the last 10 years, talks from Kosuke, other people, etc., for even longer than that now. And just it's a really great experience. And I was able to interview Elon for this, which is really great. He had a lot of lovely insights in terms of what open source means to him, his experiences with open source, and what the idea of what Scale is and what they hope to achieve through Scale, which is education and expanding the open source community in terms of both the community itself, the projects that are available, and inspiring others to create their own projects and join other projects. So really great. It's a longer read for sure, but Elon had a lot of great stories, insights, and just a lot of things that I really liked about just what he had to share and what he had to say about all of that. So, want to make sure that we captured all of that as much as possible. So, definitely give that a read when you have a chance. It's a great time and it's a great time. Elon's a great person, and it was just really nice to talk with someone who is outside of the project, but still has a lot of respect and uh, love for the project itself, for Jenkins. And so, yeah, really excited to be able to publish that. And we'll continue to kind of sing those praises for a little bit. Scale's always been very positive and supportive of Jenkins. So we want to make sure that we're equally as supportive back. Meg Roberts is going to be the next feature in the spotlight. I just sent over a draft of that one the other day, Meg. So when you have a chance to,
Yes, I forgot to respond to you yesterday, but yeah, I'm on it.
no worries, no rush at all. And we still have a few weeks before that'll be published, so no
Yeah,
worries.
good.
Mhm. And then we've also sent the questionnaire or the questions over to Melissa from JFrog and Lance from uh, OSU OSL for their responses. Might need to follow up with them and just remind them, but we're still going strong there. We're still looking for additional spotlights. So we'll see what happens in the next few months, but hopefully we get some responses from Melissa, Lance, and a couple other folks that we have feelers out to. Next up, the Java 25 documentation. So Chris has created an issue to track this and just kind of house all this. Java 25 is not available in Jenkins just yet. So still more to come on that. But in addition to that, we had a user post recently in the Jenkins user group that the Java 21 upgrade instructions weren't available. So after we made that available and updated the tutorials and other documentation for that, it helped highlight the areas that we're going to need to make sure are updated for Java 25 as well. So lots of good stuff there. And again, more to come once Java 25 is actually available within Jenkins builds. So it'll still be a little bit before that, but we'll have a better idea of what needs to be taken care of at that time. So the 2025 Jenkins Community Awards voting period is still open for a few more days. Originally, it was going to close on like June 4th or June 6th. I forget the exact actual date, but they've opened it up to June 16th. So if you have not voted yet, you still have about 4 days to do that. We have three categories: the most valuable contributor, most valuable advocate, and security MVP. And so we have the categories, the nominations, the nominees. They're all listed within the blog post here that Alyssa has put together for us. And the Jenkins Award voting form is accessible from the blog post. Um, and it's just a Google form. You fill it out and submit it. So we're looking forward to that. The winners will be announced at CDCon, which is just a couple weeks away now. So we're getting close to the end there, but it'll be nice to highlight the people that um, deserve recognition for all the work that they do for the project. So excited about that. I'm glad to have such wonderful nominees and people involved in the project. It's only right that they get their time to shine. Next up's the Android and Jenkins blog post that Bruno wrote up. This was published a couple week or two ago. I forget the exact date on here. Let's take a look together. May 22nd, so just a couple weeks ago. But it's nice. It's the second part in the Android and Jenkins blog post series. Don't worry about the time between, but they're part of the same series. And it's great. It's cool. It's nice to see, different uses for Jenkins and alternative options for people that want to get involved with the project, but maybe they're more focused on mobile development or something that's not necessarily as standard as what other people are using Jenkins for. It's good to have options, and the strength of the project is not only the ecosystem and the community, but the versatility of it. So it's great to be able to highlight different options and different potential processes for people to check out. And Bruno did a really great write-up of the different ways you can use it and how to get set up and running, and specifically running Jenkins on an Android device. So really cool here. Bruno, any
Yeah,
other thoughts?
yeah, thanks a lot for letting me put my brain dump on Jenkins.io. It's a very niche subject, but nonetheless, thanks for taking the time to review all my nonsense and so on. It was a great experience for me. Thank you.
Good. Glad to hear it. And thank you, Bruno, for sharing that. Again,
I think it's a great addition for what it's worth.
Oh, thank you.
We had back years ago, I mean, we had requests for that information and we were all like, yeah.
yeah, it's similar to you need someone with the information and the knowledge to be able to share that. If someone doesn't have it, it's tough to kind of just put it out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much, Bruno.
Welcome.
Next up's the Google Summer of Code 2025. So the other blog posts that have been published in the last few weeks have been from the Google Summer of Code participants, which is really great. We just finished the bonding period last week, so we're right now in the coding period. But we've got blog posts introducing both the contributor and their project. So there's Maeve, who's working on enhancing the Tecton integration and plugin. Giovanni, who's working on an AI-powered chat bot to provide Jenkins resources. Ranak, who's working on improving the plugin modernizer tool. Birajit, who's working on the complete build retooling of Jenkins.io, and Shirag, who's working on building an LLM tongue twister for a Jenkins failure diagnosis. So, all really exciting projects. They're really cool. Being able to see or being able to hear the contributors and the participants kind of share their progress and see the work that they're doing is really exciting. And really impressive, to say the least. Stepping into a project and kind of running full speed from the get-go is really tough to do, but everyone's been doing a really fantastic job, hitting the ground running, working on the project, submitting pull requests left and right. So, really excited there. Chris, do you want to share anything else about it, or any other notes from your side?
I think I don't have anything much to add except to say that all 5 of the contributors are doing great work on their projects. So it's good to know.
Thank you very much. And yeah, and Chris actually added this point earlier, but the midterm evaluations will be about halfway through July, so we still got plenty of time to go before that. But the way things are progressing, everything looks really nice, and like we're heading the right direction. So thank you again to all the participants, all the contributors, all the mentors, all the org admins, everyone involved in Google Server of Code. Takes a lot to get there, but I can really tell that everyone's heavily invested in it and happy to see that kind of enthusiasm throughout the project. Next up is the Chinese documentation site and localization plugin. So background, again, we've been discussing this for a little bit, but the idea is that we retire it and kind of move on from it, but there's still a good amount of users relying on it, or at least there's a solid number of installations of the localization plugin. So instead of retiring it, we want to make sure that it's modernized and up to date. And that way we hold on to the documentation and enhance the experience for those users. And then Chris Stearns recently adopted the Chinese doc site, and myself and Mark are a part of the team there that's going to be helping kind of just maintaining, keep things up to date. But Chris, you had added some points on here earlier. Do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. So we're gonna revamp the site because like we are gonna add version docs to the Jenkins.io site, va-docs.jenkins.io. So we're gonna mirror it, but not to use the exact same tooling. So I propose to stock a source to as a framework for the new docs site for the Chinese version. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so this one was React based and it uses Markdown instead of like a doc or ASCII doc.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not terribly far off in terms of capabilities, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. It's just the kind of context switching that happens between the two sites at that point. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Thanks very much, Chris. I'm glad to see uh, that you found something that looks like it could work for the site. Because I know that it hasn't been updated in a little bit and kind of been left behind a little bit to some degrees. So that's not great. Definitely don't want to do that continuously and leave that behind. So I really appreciate the fact that we're trying to bring it to present time with us. So thanks.
Yeah, and also like I may need to talk to Mark about some details before I start. So I will need wait until he's free to do that.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, Mark's probably the best person to talk about it with. So yeah, I think that makes sense. And I don't think there's any real rush to get it fixed and taken care of. Obviously, we want it sooner, sooner than later, but it's not a do or die sort of thing. So cool. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next step on the list. So the good first issues on Jenkins.io. So last session, Meg mentioned that there wasn't really any good first issues left over at this point. Chris has created an issue for this specifically. So just checking out the docs in general, the work in progress, there's a good amount of work in progress marked pages that have a work in progress kind of status at the top of it. Some more fitting than others where the pages are blank, but there are a couple of pages that have that where maybe less necessary. There is some content, but I mean, if it's still a work in progress, it's still a work in progress. We don't want to take that away from there. So we do have this set up to track. Still more work to be done on there, and some auditing needs to be done. But yeah, and that's the idea. I think is that if we can audit the documentation, find those work in progress pages, maybe we can have separate pages or separate issues for each one. That way, we have multiple first issues and not just one big one. Yeah. I thought I heard something. So, yeah.
Just saying, yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thanks, Mike. But yeah, so yeah, more to come on that. But yeah, we need to kind of populate some good first issues back in there. I might have stole them and some other folks as well. I know. Well, I don't know that they were marked good first issues necessarily, but I know Birgit's been closing out some issues as well. So cool. All right. So next up, the LTS and weekly releases. So we have the next LTS is scheduled for June 25th. As of right now, there aren't any backports or changelog entries that need to be created. Changelogs and upgrade guides still need to be created. They just need to be noted that there aren't any changes coming at this point.
What? I think there's one change, which is to backport a Jackin Windstone PR. So that's underway though, because we got stuck because of some ATH issues.
Oh, that's that one. Okay.
Yeah.
So two dependencies, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know there was one. I saw one originally when I was looking at the candidates, but then it got removed from that list. So when I checked earlier today, there was still nothing populated, but then I saw in the Gitter thread, Chris, what you were talking about. So, okay, cool. Good to know. I'll be sure to keep an eye out on that then. And then, Chris, you're working with Philip on the release at this coming release, right?
Yep.
Is there gonna be a backporting ticket for that in and of itself, or
Well, that's one. I think it's like, do you have it? Hang on. I'm sure I found it.
because it wasn't in the LTS checklist earlier when I took a look. So
Let me paste it to
okay.
chat now. So is this one? Is this one you're looking for?
Yeah, so normally there's usually when the backporting ticket gets created, it's like added here. Since it wasn't here, I didn't see anything and I wasn't yeah, same thing with
Cool.
like
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So that's all I was saying. There wasn't an actual backporting ticket itself, so I wasn't sure.
Oh, that's one. Sorry, I was I was confused because like it's here, but wait, give me a sec. I'll be quick.
Yeah, no worries. No rush. Uh if there is a backporting ticket, cool, even better. That's just more for my knowledge and my purposes at this point. So
Um, a few more seconds. So if I
cool.
take it, so it was like this one. Sorry, I was confused what you meant. So sorry. It's here.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's yes. Okay, cool. Um, maybe that, and I think that might actually be the one that I was working on. Okay, cool, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Great to have. So, so there might be another one in addition to that one, and then is what I'm understanding.
No,
Or
no.
okay, and so the Windstone Jetty one wouldn't be part of this.
I think it's like that. That's supposed to be updated. But I'll follow up with him about it because I did mention he has to change it, but I think he forgot to.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that yeah, whatever works. I just want to make sure that everything's correct and included at that point. So if there's another one that needs to be added, or if one of them's not going to make it, just let me know. But I'll get cracking on that. It's in here. All right. Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate that. And then in the last couple weeks, we've had 2.513 and 2.514 weekly releases. And then on top of all that, Mark started the discussion in the developer mailing list around the next LTS baseline selection. July is going to be the first 0.1 release. Mark suggested 2.514. Most of the releases between 504 and now have been pretty good. Very few issues throughout each of them. And mostly have been running pretty well. So things are looking good there. And then there are a couple things that might need to get backported to it, but we'll get there when we get there. But the discussion's been started. We'll figure it out from there. And that is big. That's a big deal because it's going to include the redesigned header. Full stop. It will be part of that release. So just things to be aware of. A couple different upgrade guides and things to be that we have to make sure are included as that. So there's been recent work done for Jenkins.io and documentation. Damien DePortal added information for and documentation about mirror maintainers and providing an additional example for rsync. So thanks to Damien for that. Damien's also been helping me with the old wiki redirect stuff that I have a separate section for, so we'll talk about that later. Thanks to Daniel Beck for adding some more details to the system property docs. And there's a couple other things that are currently being worked on by Daniel Beck about for additional security documentation. We're just waiting on a couple things there. Thanks to Chris for updating the Google Summer of Code docs now that the bonding period is finished up. And thanks to Birgit for, first of all, adding the LinkedIn option to blog posts. And we'll talk about that separately in just a second. But also adding content to the C page and updating the solution pages for GitHub, Java, and embedded solutions. Birgit found some links that were no longer working or out of date. So we updated those as well as some additional adjustments there. So thanks for that. And then, so at the beginning of the meeting, Chris had mentioned adding Mastodon and Blue Sky options as well as LinkedIn. I can actually just go to Jenkins.io since this is live. But Birgit, just the other day, added an option to have a LinkedIn post here. So now we can post on X, Twitter, whatever, directly from the blog post, but also directly to LinkedIn, which is great. Just makes it easier to share things from Jenkins.io, which is fantastic. That's never a bad thing. And so, and Chris had mentioned earlier about potentially adding Blue Sky and Mastodon options. So this was discussed at the last Advocacy and Outreach meeting, but we are now on Blue Sky and Mastodon as well as Twitter and LinkedIn and other places. So I think it makes
Sorry to interrupt, Chris. Is it just me, or does the button, the font, and so on not look exactly that the one for Twitter? Yeah, it's kind of different, right?
I think it's this one, but we may need to go with the post, the word the post from the button, and add into more one for Mastodon and the other one for Blue Sky.
Yeah. Sorry for being a nitpicker, but it just looked strange. But nonetheless, thanks a lot for the feature. I do love it.
Oh, I didn't do it. Birgit did it. So
I know.
yeah.
Thank you, Meredith.
Birgit, do you want to try out adding Blue Sky and Mastodon, or do you want me to do it? I don't mind. I actually kind of want to do it, but depends on what you want.
I can do it, but don't you think like if we have around 4 share button in there, it will look somehow somewhat crowded in there?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's why I just said go with the post word.
Oh, post, and
Well,
then you would
yes.
choose X, LinkedIn, whatever.
That you are meaning something like a drop down in the post.
I'm not sure if the drop down is a good thing unless we have many of it. But
Oh, we may do something like I've just forgot the word. Like if we click on post, then the horizontal we have all the option of selecting any one of them. We can do something like that. I just forgot the word what that face is called.
yeah, I'll maybe start a discussion on Jenkins style with Paul. So again, can chip in. So we better get against opinions on this.
Yeah, because it could be just a general share button at that point, and then you can select how you want to share it, um, versus having multiple buttons here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Share is maybe even better than post. But
I think so. Yeah.
in most of the website, we see something like, I don't know, a few circles with a triangle and lines to say share. I don't know if we should go to an icon. I don't know if we have such an icon in the set of icons we are already using within Jenkins.io.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know, because it's really like
We could add it
this.
somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
it'd be nice to have.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry for making your life more complicated.
Anyways, I mean, Bridget and I can handle it. There's no worries.
Okay, thank you.
Can we
In this,
to the first photo a little bit? Yeah, that one can we can copy that one, but can we scroll down to the bottom? I'm just more chat with the footer. So we have X, we've Reddit. Oh, we could add like 2 more buttons here, community for Mastodon. And I was just wondering where that would go. So Twitter, we should add oh no, community. That's not the same thing, right? I was just thinking like maybe I should add like a one for. We only have one for X and for Reddit.
mhm.
Should also add for Mastodon, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky. I'll add.
Yeah.
I'll create a ticket for it.
Okay. Yeah, that works. Thanks, Chris.
I have to go, so I'm just gonna drop a call because I haven't
Okay.
another meeting. Okay,
Sounds good. Take care, Chris. Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah. Bye.
bye.
All right, cool. So yeah, having like a share button or something option on the page would be nice to have. Again, not a crucial missing piece, but something just to make life easier for anyone that when we do end up adding these two, having one consolidated place to do all of that is just easier, and less cluttered in a UI sense, which I'm sure Jan would appreciate. So cool. Next up, the Google Student Docs program is closed. This was announced in a Google group. Um, I've updated the pages mentioning Google Summer of Docs to indicate its conclusion. And then I also removed, there were a handful of links that were pointing to it that no longer work. So I got rid of those from those pages as well. So that's taken care of. And yeah, stinks, but it was not necessarily as popular a program as Google Summer of Code. So they're focusing on Google Summer of Code heavily. So that's the bittersweet part of it. So that, as I mentioned before, the July LTS is going to be the next point one with a new baseline. It's going to include the header redesign. So there are a lot of things that we're going to need to be aware of and take and update accordingly. So first and foremost, if Jan puts together a blog post for this, that would be really great. Multifaceted approach of alerting users and highlighting and showcasing the new header redesign. So it's a good thing to have regardless of how anyone feels about it. It's just a matter of making sure that people are aware and get to see the benefits of it. And then Mark will do his what's new broadcast that he does with Darren after every release, not just the point one release. So that'll be good to get the word out there. And then we'll also make sure to include that in the upgrade guide. Since the header redesign does change the UI in a way that functionalities are in different places, we'll want to make sure that users are aware of that. So we'll be sure to include that in the upgrade guide. Along with that, that also means that we'll need to figure out what screenshots need to be replaced in terms of the header. And along with that, what navigation instruction needs to change with the header. I'm going to go through and audit the docs to see what I can find in terms of screenshots and the context around them. I've tried to be a little bit less specific when talking about it in some ways. Like instead of using like upper left and upper right, like just saying navigate to this and navigate to that. So direct, but not completely missable. But we'll need to actually figure out what's going to work and what's going to be necessary after the fact. So more to come on that, but that's going to be the July LTS, which is towards the end of July. I think it's like the 23rd right now is the scheduled date. So more to come on that, but yeah, we'll have to figure that out. And then I'm also working on better screenshot guidelines. Doing a little bit of auditing from some pages. It's not very consistent in terms of the screenshot size and dimensions. So I'm going to put together a better suggestion for those, and as well as providing tools that I'm using and stuff like that. It might not be what everyone else uses, but at least giving them the option to know about that stuff and providing some examples of how that's helpful is better than not. So more to come on that. And now we are at time, we're past time, so I don't want to go wildly over at this point. The wiki migration stuff, this is just something I'm working on that I have to check in with Damien about how the redirects are being handled, because I found something that might be a little bit more nuanced than what I thought. So I'll partner up with him for that. And then the potentially removing Java 11 upgrade instructions. So BRG created an issue to potentially remove Java 11 upgrade instructions. I think it's a good idea. Usually we hold on to stuff just in case people are upgrading slower. Since we're not necessarily supporting Java 11, it does make sense to not lead people to believe otherwise. But I think it's something we'll check in with Mark about just to be sure about. I have no issue with it. I just tend to be overly cautious when it comes to these sort of things so that I don't interrupt or cause any turmoil for others. But again, that's me being overly cautious. There's no reason to hold on to something that doesn't get supported. So yeah. Brigitte, anything you want to share on that?
No, not of now. But I think yes, it'd be better if you can talk with Mark about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's been very receptive to those sort of things before. I think it's more my cautiousness that has kept it from being removed already. So yeah, we'll talk with Mark. I'll talk with Mark and check in with him, see what he says, and we'll you and I can figure that out together, because archiving the documentation is not as commonly done. We usually try to keep it available to some degree, but in this sense, it's literally just upgrade instructions, which are not necessarily specific to Jenkins. So yeah, I think there's grounds for removal, so to speak.
Or we might even like have a caution or warning type thing in that page also maybe.
Yeah, and that way it's preserved historically, but still instructing users not to do it, or like to upgrade to a newer version. Yeah, I think there's a couple different options we can take. We don't have to do any one thing, which is nice. But yeah, once Mark's back and available, we'll check with him and see what he thinks, and just go from there with it. Sound like a plan? Cool. All right. So yeah, these are discussion topics we've been bringing you over for the last handful of sessions. So we don't need to go over those today. We'll just wrap things up for today. The recording will be available in about 24 to 48 hours. And then we'll see you again in 2 weeks for the next scheduled session. We'll have a new LTS, and we'll check in then. Until then, stay safe, take care, and thanks for being part of the project.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.